Hey guys, it's Greg. Real quick before we jump in, we know we're throwing a lot at you in these first 8 episodes. So we made a little cheat sheet with the most important takeaways. Let's be honest. Danielle made it. If you want it, sign up for our newsletter at tmitpod.com. That's TMIT, the most important thing, pod.com. Or email us at hi@tmitpod.com and we'll send it your way. Hope you're loving the show.
Welcome to The Most Important Thing. I'm Danielle DeMarco Neufeld.
And I'm Greg Neufeld, and together we're exploring how ambitious, busy families can build culture at home.
Because after all, family is the most important thing. Indeed it is.
Indeed.
Hi, Greg.
Hi, Danielle.
So today we
Hi,
are... That is what you call me. So today we are talking about family money. So why did we want to have an episode on family money? My answer is because it feels like something that we ought to be talking about, that we haven't really. I mean, you and I are pretty intentional, and we haven't necessarily discussed what we will talk about with the kids about money. We've said we don't like buying lots of plastic and we don't like many things.
Yeah.
But more than that, it seems like it's been pretty illusory.
Yep. So unlike some of the previous episodes where we had done some of the work, I don't think that we've done very much of the work at all. And part of the interest in creating this episode is to learn what work there is to do for now and for later and for someday.
Yeah. And I would say we had a conversation with a friend the other day that works a lot with multi-generational wealthy families. And we were talking about how family culture comes up in the context of her job. And one of the things that she said to me at the end of the conversation was, you know, Danielle, I know you don't really feel like talking about money with your kids, but you probably should. And she said it in a very nice way, but that was my takeaway. And I was like, you know what? She's right.
Yeah.
It's something that you and I are so close to in the sense that we've both spent more than a decade in the investment world. And talking about money as far as a deal that gets done or investment performance is something that we do day in and day out.
Yeah.
But it hasn't been something that we've navigated intentionally with our family.
Yep. Also, it's close to 2 decades.
Yep, that's true. Okay. Yeah. So as far as setting the context window is concerned, then we have tried allowance, particularly with Hunter. And that ended up just being a situation where every couple of weeks when she got enough allowance, she would beg us to go to Target and buy junk.
Right.
And that didn't really feel like it was driven by our values.
Yep. And, you know, a lot of questions about money in the house from the kids.
Like what?
They're just curious. Like, how much does the house cost?
How much money do you have?
How much money do you have?
Yeah, those are
Exactly.
common questions.
Those are
for
common
sure.
questions.
Yeah. And so I think ultimately I'm looking for a way to talk about and socialize the idea of money as a tool to live within our values. Let's talk about what this episode is not about, because that was actually my biggest sticking point when we started talking about having this episode. This episode is not called How to Teach Your Kids About Money. This is not an episode where we are going to get into the debate about whether you should give allowance for chores or just give allowance. And we are certainly not going to suggest that you give your kid 3 jars and write on them spend, share, and save.
We have those in a closet.
I just gave them away.
Oh, nice. Well, so then everything was in the give.
There you go. Not that those things don't work. Maybe they do. They haven't worked for us. But really, I think that there needs to be a foundation prior to that. Maybe we'll get there. Maybe we won't. I think you and I are pretty caught up on this idea of like, why am I going to go to the ATM and get my children paper money when that is not anything that we use in real life?
Yep.
So that's number one. And number two is our kids just buy junk so far. So I have no interest in giving them money. And I'm sure there are a couple of other things. But so this is really, for us, maybe y'all are ahead of us, but for us, it really has to be a foundational episode of what do we even want to talk about when it comes to money and how do we make those decisions?
Yeah. Money represents values and actions, and the actions that we take with our money really do reflect our values. And I think that just finding a way to communicate those back to our children about why we spend money the way that we do and why we don't spend money on certain things is a really good foundation for us to then build on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. I feel like we probably have enough of a context window.
Definitely.
Okay, great. So, what is the most important thing about family money? It is accepting the fact that money is influencing our family culture already, whether we realize it or not.
Yes.
And therefore, I suggest, a la Claire Hughes Johnson, one of my personal role models and the former COO of Stripe, we make the implicit explicit.
Yep.
And so I have a plan,
Okay.
as usual. Yeah. I think it's a 3-step process. Step 1, reflect on our own money stories. Get clear on our personal beliefs and values around money ourselves, both individually and as a couple. Step 2, normalize money talk in everyday life. I would like us to start weaving in mini, honest, low stakes conversations about money with the kids. And then step 3, once they've had a foundation of those types of conversations, to invite them into the decision-making process around money. How does that sound to you?
It sounds great.
Okay, so step 1, reflect on our own money stories. So I asked you to take a quiz from the folks at Money Scripts. And so money scripts are unconscious beliefs we hold about money, often shaped by our upbringing and life experience. The term was coined by Dr. Brad Klontz and Dr. Ted Klontz, 2 financial psychologists and researchers. Their work includes studies in peer-reviewed journals like the Journal of Financial Planning. They identified 4 core money scripts. The first one's money avoidance, believing that money is bad or undeserved. The second is money focus, thinking that more money will solve all of life's problems. The third is money status, linking self-worth to net worth. And the fourth is money vigilance, being cautious and secretive about money. So the idea is that understanding your money script, presumably by taking this quiz, can help you see how past messages about money may be influencing your present day decisions, oftentimes without you realizing it. So did you take the quiz?
I sure did.
Okay, and what did you think? What did you find and what did you think?
So according to this quiz, I'm most highly correlated with money focus, which makes sense. I work in venture capital. I focus on finding companies that can grow very quickly, very rapidly to generate large outlier outcomes. And I live in South Florida. So the fact that I'm a 3.5 out of 6 feels about right.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah, I can see that in you. Okay, money focus. That is the script that you most dominantly hold, but even that, it's relatively loose according to their scale.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, so for me, the money script that I held most strongly was money vigilance. And that's the one that says you must be careful and responsible with money. I don't think that's surprising to either of us. I mean, when you met me, I had all of my savings in one bank account as opposed to any type of risky investments, right? So I think that I hold that less strongly than I did 10 years ago, but it is definitely the one that stands out for me the most. And I can say for certain that comes from my parents. It's definitely the way that I was raised, is to not take financial risks and to save everything possible. And so I looked at the tips they said for the people who are money vigilant, and they had a couple of good ones, but the one I liked the most is to budget for joy. So they suggested creating a fun money budget and using that to design some kind of like weekend getaway or use it for a new gadget or a hobby that I've been putting off. So I thought that was good. And it's something that you and I have discussed over time. I think we're taking more vacations and adventures this year and budgeting for that, which feels nice.
It does.
So I feel like I'm working on my money vigilance in that way. I have a couple other notices around money that I wanted to mention that didn't necessarily show up on the Money Scripts quiz. One is that we value our time greatly in our home. So that often means that we use money to pay people to do things that we don't think is worth our time. This is something I have definitely learned from you.
Yeah, I don't know where I got it.
Greg thinks his time is worth, oh man, like an infinite amount because he rarely does something if he can have someone else do it.
It's true.
So I wanted to mention it. So examples would be we always get our groceries delivered. We have a handyman that comes over often to do everything from hanging pictures to building bunk beds. We think a lot about commuting times from anything from doctors to extracurriculars or even the schools that our children go to. It is definitely a strong element in the way that we use money. And I wanted to mention it because it is something that I did not learn growing up. I came from a family where we spent almost every weekend fixing up the house or doing some type of project that would never even occur to my family to outsource.
Hmm.
I mean, my dad still washes his own windows, and he really doesn't need to. And so I wonder if there is something worth exploring here, because I do think our kids do not know anything about what it means to not hire out and to consider doing things ourselves. I will never forget when we lived in New York, in our New York City apartment, and Hunter was 2 years old and a light bulb went out. And she said, "Call Hamdi," which was the name of our handyman in our New York apartment building. So it's definitely something the kids have learned. I mean, Carlos is like Maverick's favorite person because he's always doing handiwork around our house. Greg's looking at me and kind of shaking his head. So historically, you have not been open to the idea of using your free time to do things around the house.
Yeah,
Which, you are handy, actually, when
I'm
you
quite
want to be.
handy.
Unless it has to do with technology or electronics. That is the
Yeah.
only thing that you will not let anyone else touch. Like, you would never ask Carlos to help you set up a computer or something like that.
So I developed this framework by myself, but it's been reinforced by some pretty smart people that I've listened to, like Ramit Sethi, who talks about how he loves really nice clothes and drives a Toyota Camry. That's his trade-off. Or Naval Ravikant, who's like, I won't even return anything on Amazon. I just throw it away because it's not worth my time. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm actually a pretty frugal person and will go through the process to return things or get money back on a banana that
This is
shows up
true.
that's not good. And that gives me joy to know that I can take some of that money back. But I get no joy from doing the activities that I hire out for.
Mm-hmm.
And so while I understand the perspective of modeling for our children don't have to hire out for these things. They can certainly do them themselves, but that's my value. And that's the thing
Yeah.
that I pride myself on is I've got only so many hours in a day. I need to learn to delegate. And I still am learning to delegate things every day that I want to take on myself, but I'm like, no, I can't touch that.
Sure. Okay, so I'm hearing it's a no for now, which is just fine with me. But I guess I just wanted to make the implicit explicit in the
Sure.
sense that if we could even just talk to our kids about we made this choice, like daddy could have built your bunk beds, but we think very highly of Carlos's work. He is a trusted person in our life, and we are paying because we would rather spend that time playing with you on a Saturday, or daddy would rather spend some of that time working than doing it ourselves.
Yeah. I grew up doing a lot of the handiwork and stuff with my dad, but the thing that always struck me as particularly odd was that he didn't have any of the tools. Like he would always go and borrow them from our neighbor who had the nicer tools.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like we would be building TV cabinets with the little screwdrivers and Allen wrench things that came in the box. And I'm like, where's the drill?
Having the right tools is also a big deal for you. I
Yes.
understand. Okay, well, it's a notice. I'm recalling that recently the girls and I read the second book in one of our favorite book series, which is called The Way of the Warrior Kid. It's by Jocko Willink, who's a former Navy SEAL. And basically the point of the book is discipline equals freedom. And it's all these kind of,
Do pull-ups.
do pull-ups. It's amazing. Highly
amazing.
recommend. But anyway, in the book, the boy Mark buys a bike at a junkyard for $2. And he and his friend Nathan, who has no money, spend the summer fixing it up together for Nathan. So it's kind of like the joy of a job well done. And quite frankly, something productive to do with their time instead of being bored over the summer. So it's just a different perspective on how to think about hard work and time.
I think you did a great job embodying this while outsourcing the other day, by the way.
Ooh.
You had the brilliant idea of asking Carlos to stain the shutters that had gotten sun bleached, as opposed to us hiring out to somebody to make new ones or going to buy new ones. I thought that was brilliant because he did a beautiful job. And that was you repurposing something that existed, outsourcing it to a person who was not in the business of doing that, but came away with a really great product. Reminds me of that $2 bike. And it just happened to be that it was Carlos doing the work.
Interesting. I will add that you are excellent at sourcing great talent.
Thank you.
And so, and maintaining wonderful relationships with that talent. So while you do like to delegate things, you have found a host of folks, from our nanny to Carlos, our handyman, to the pool people, I can keep going, that are excellent at their craft and have a very high standard for all of the projects that they do here. And you are great at making sure that they know, both verbally and monetarily, that we value them.
Yeah, as are you.
Thanks. Okay, so we really value time.
We really value time because we really value things like sleep. We really value things like exercise. We really value things like togetherness. We really value things like
deep
food,
work.
Food that we make at home.
Anyway, you're getting down the Neufeld rabbit hole, but yes, more to be revealed there. Okay, and then I want to circle back on this idea of the kids can make their own choices about whether to delegate something or hire out for it. And a question that came up in some of my research that I think it's worth considering is, are we passing down a lifestyle to our children that they will have a hard time supporting?
It's a very good question. I think that when it comes to values, every person is going to have their own values, and we need to communicate why these are our values and see if it matches up with theirs, because there's always choices. There's always choices with money. You can do this or you can do that. You can learn to do your laundry so that you don't need to send it out when you go to college, or you can send it out and then not have the spending money to go out at night. Like, these are all choices. And I don't think that one is better than the other. I actually think that there's a lot of shame that's placed on not doing something like laundry yourself. But who cares? I mean, seriously, who cares? Like, if you don't want to do laundry and that's something that you hate and you have the money to send it out and you're willing to take that trade-off, good for you. Like, that is a thoughtful choice.
Okay. Well, I'm going back to this make the implicit explicit idea of, we have chosen to have someone do our laundry. There probably will come a time where we will teach our children how to do laundry so that they have choices.
Yep.
There were many decades of my life that I did my own laundry.
Same.
Right? And did laundry for other members of my family. Right now is not one of them.
No.
So I think it's just an important thing to consider as we are making choices, because we are preparing the child for the path, not the path for the child. I think that's one of our core tenets as parents. And so we want to make sure that they have an opportunity to develop those life skills, even if we are currently using money to allow them to avoid it.
Agreed.
So I think that we had a great first conversation reflecting on our own money stories just now, right? Okay. Step 2, normalize money talk in everyday life. So I would like to broaden, maybe not this conversation, but I would like to broaden the topic to mini money conversations with our family. Again, minimum viable product. They're 7, 5, and 3. Only one of them kind of knows math. So there isn't too much to do here. But I do think that we can weave some money talk into some of our existing experiments, particularly with stories around sharing successes and struggles with money with our children, and also with our values. So money as a tool to live with our values, within our values. As I said in our values exercise, I love this idea of success as the state of living and working according to our values. And I think that that applies to money as well. So we can think about noble uses of money, right?
Yeah.
So I asked ChatGPT to come up with some everyday ways to be noble with money. And it came up with a bunch of stuff. Some of it I hated. Two of them I absolutely loved. One is this idea of delaying gratification, which I think is so paramount in life in general, but it certainly applies to money. To be able to say things like, we're not buying that right now because we're saving for something more meaningful.
Yes.
And then also to be open about money missteps, like I overspent on that. I'm learning to be more careful. That shows that growth is ongoing and it can build trust within the family. I never would have thought of that. So thank you, ChatGPT.
I like that a lot.
So I have some more ideas. Like we recently got our pool resurfaced, and talking to them about how we made that decision over a year ago and put money aside specifically for this. And then we did it in the month of April when we understood that supply costs would be the lowest. Just things like that.
Yeah.
And sharing with them why we make certain choices. Like we buy you relatively expensive shoes because they're more supportive for your feet and we care about foot health. Foot health, that's funny. It's true. But this means take care of them. Please don't ruin them immediately.
Yes, right. I think that the conversation for Jade and definitely for Maverick will also be about why they don't get new things. Right? So you have this bike because we bought this bike for the family.
Mm-hmm.
This is not Hunter's bike. This is a family bike. And we bought the best bike that we could get so that we can use it 3 times.
Yep. That's a great point. Totally.
I think it's just good to reinforce the why. Whenever we give anything to these kids, let's just say the value that it fulfills and why we were willing to purchase it. And if we're not willing to purchase something, same thing. The why and the value that it doesn't fulfill.
I think that's great. That goes back to our stories episode about sharing meaning.
Yeah.
Okay. And then step 3, invite kids into the process. So once we've laid the foundation with some of these mini conversations, I think it makes sense to involve them more in some decision making over time, especially low stakes things where we can help them with experiential learning opportunities. I've heard it said in finance circles that I would rather my kid blow $60 on some junk at Target than $60,000 on a degree that isn't going anywhere.
Yeah.
So start small. So one of the things I thought about, which we have 6 months until birthday season here, but we could give Hunter in particular a budget for her 8th birthday party.
Yeah. And for school supplies and for
Oh,
tuition.
School tuition. It's one you keep bringing up.
Because I think if she can pay that bill out of her own brokerage account and see that every month that's how much is going, I think she's going to like school a lot more.
She doesn't have a basis for thousands of dollars versus hundreds of dollars versus tens of dollars.
I think she will have a basis for thousands of dollars. Just talking amongst, like, if she's paying that bill, hear me out. She's going to go to school and be like, do you know how much it costs, this school? And that's a good conversation for kids to have. Esther Wojcicki talks about how the Japanese don't have janitors and how they sweep up the classrooms and clean everything up themselves. And that is really what taking pride in your school means. And so, if you're paying that tuition bill.
Interesting. Well, I encourage you to support her through that. Run that experiment with her. Absolutely.
Yeah, I'd like to try it for this year.
Have her pay her tuition. Why not?
Exactly.
Okay, great. Well, so that leads into my next question, which is what experiments are we willing to run around family money?
Oh, and by the way, that's an Esther Wojcicki practice around paying tuition that I stole around paying college. But yeah,
You want to apply it to third grade.
basically, I don't see
Why
why
not?
not. Like that gives a basis for big numbers, I think.
Okay. Hey, why not? If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out.
Yeah.
Low stakes here. This is a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Okay. So, what experiments are we willing to run around family money? I think with regards to step one, you and I have started the conversation around being more explicit about our use of money in a values oriented way. And with regards to number two, as far as the normalizing money talks in everyday life, what would you be willing to commit to?
This either starting with the why or incorporating the value into everything that is spent on them.
Okay, great.
Right. So
Yeah, I mean,
what's
I
a better
think,
way of saying that?
okay, so I think it comes down to sharing stories around struggles and successes with money. And then also leveraging, I mean, there isn't much of a better value in our family cheer than noble for talking about money and noble uses of money.
Yeah.
And then number three, inviting kids into the process. I mentioned the birthday and you said tuition, but I'm thinking even small things. Again, minimum viable product, like allowing them the opportunity when we're doing our weekly grocery checkout to look at the relative cost of things and decide whether they want 2 types of fruit or 1 bar of chocolate kind of thing.
Yeah.
Okay. So there's so much to unravel about money, huh?
Yeah.
A ton to unpack. I'd like to suggest that we keep it simple for now, but notice when there are opportunities to weave money conversations into our everyday comings and goings and choices that we're making.
Yes.
So, to recap, what's the most important thing about family money? It is influencing our family culture, whether we realize it or not.
That's right. And so we're going to do 3 things.
Reflect upon our own money stories.
Yep. And share them.
And share them with one another. Normalize money talk in everyday life and invite kids into the process.
Love it. And we'd love to hear from families that are doing this already with their kids, with older kids that, are getting some responsibilities around money, how you're handling this, especially in the age of no more paper money, no more checkbooks, no more going to the bank and talking to the teller.
Yeah. And what are your values around money? Because I would bet that they would differ from ours. So
Yes.
we would love to hear how you use money as a way to live within your values as well.
Agreed. I think there's probably some deep dive into the Reddit fire and fat fire communities that we could do here as well for some creative ideas.
All right. Love you, Goosey.
Love you, Goosey. Welcome to our experiment update, where we recap what we've tried at home, how it worked or didn't, and what we're tweaking next. Danielle, we've been running a lot of experiment updates, probably the most of any of the listeners. What do you think about how they've been going so far in aggregate? Do you think that we're onto something?
I really do. I felt great about the flow of this weekend in particular. I feel like we are dedicating space. It feels like we have different zones for different types of connection, and that feels really good.
It sure does. I think these kids really notice. I mean, Maverick gave me a huge hug after nap yesterday, and that never happens.
Yeah, you guys have definitely been strengthening your bond lately.
Indeed. So I don't want to take up too much time on these experiment updates, but I do think that they're all important. So should we start with the family meal?
Absolutely.
All right. So minimum viable product was let's go outside and eat popsicles together after 5.
Yes, but Jade and Maverick chose the popsicles and we made them together on Thursday, which I think was a cute add-on. So they were very excited about it.
Yes. Now, great call doing them outside because, my gosh, were they messy.
Indeed.
But tremendous results with a boomerang effect because of the sugar. So the kids were so happy, first of all, that we were there with them, especially that I was eating with them. I do not eat after
Dessert
dessert ever. Yeah.
or at 5 o'clock ever. So it was actually really exciting to all sit down together in a different location outside on the turf. We were very relaxed and to eat something yummy and messy.
Yeah. It was very special. And we could have just gone inside and we were ready to clean up, but we started talking about how we were going to show them family movement, and they were like, "Why would we wait?"
Oh, wait, no, hold on. Greg, we also asked questions about how the week went
Oh yeah.
and what do you not want to bring into next week? And we had some awesome responses.
Awesome responses.
So Jade really had some adorable play ideas at her school, but Hunter, so on Thursday morning, she was going on a field trip and she didn't think that her best friend was going to be there. And she woke up in the morning and pretended that she was sick. And then about an hour later said, you know, Mommy, the real reason why I don't want to go is because my friend's not going to be there. And during family meal, she said, I want to change the way I acted yesterday because I actually had a great time on the field trip without her. And I wish that I hadn't not wanted to go. And we both separately later that night, she told me, you guys are so weird. You both told me that that was such a reflective response. But it was really fun.
It was.
It was a really nice little moment that we had, and to start to see kind of that metacognition, I guess, if you will.
Yeah.
But Hunter for the win during family meal said, Mommy, you cannot give me all of this sugar and then not ask me to move my body. Let's do family movement now. And Greg and I looked at each other. We're like, oh, well, okay, sounds good. We're going to stay up a little bit later, but that's all right. And meanwhile, it was actually already happening because Jade was running around in circles like a dog trying to catch her tail. But that's just normal. So we ended up doing family movement for the next, 30 to 45 minutes.
Yeah.
We practiced throwing and catching with footballs and large balls. It was so nice. It was really a lovely way to start the weekend.
It sure was. I can't believe that was Friday. That feels like so long ago, given how many experiments we've been packing into the weekend. But that was the best way to start the week.
It was so nice, and they've already picked out lemon popsicles for next weekend, so they're very excited.
Great.
I got 2 thumbs up on Saturday morning. I asked them how it went. Everybody gave it 2 thumbs up.
Yeah. So then on Saturday, we did our pre-meeting, and our family pre-meeting is an important and necessary part of our family meeting, we're finding. So hope that as you're trying this at home, that you set aside some time to create an agenda together and really get intentional about what you're going to do.
I think the kids look forward to the Saturday pre-meeting more than they do the Sunday meeting, because as soon as they woke up on Saturday morning, they told me about how we have to start voting. They wanted to vote before you even came downstairs, Greg.
Yeah, I think they want to win. I think they're darn competitive.
They all want their own ideas. Also, the idea of choosing the snack in the game feels fun.
Yes.
So yeah, on Saturday, we had our Saturday pre-meeting, and we've continued throughout the week to try to talk about our family value of the month, which is being noble. And so I've consistently said that noble means doing the right thing, even when it's hard. And to varying degrees, I think that has caught on. I attempted to read a couple of noble stories, particularly about Clara Barton this week, the founder of the American Red Cross. And, well, like,
Yeah.
meh, más o menos, I would say.
Yeah.
But this weekend, the Kacha jar came back with a vengeance. We didn't really use it too much during the week, but over the weekend, we had 5 or 6 different submissions by the kids noticing noble acts of one another. And Jade had the most adorable innovation to turn one of her scraps of paper into a necklace. She said, Mommy, I actually want to take this piece of paper and make a noble necklace out of it, because she was so proud of her noble act. So before you knew it, we had 3 noble necklaces going on this weekend from the kids.
It was very, very sweet.
And the Safe Hands, Strong Hearts call and response has also, I'd say it's been about 70% effective.
Yeah.
Which is something, for sure.
It's definitely catchy. I mean, sometimes they will scream it in the same second of biting or hitting. They'll be like, oh, safe hands.
Hey, there's been no biting this week.
No.
So, yes, often Maverick will be screaming, strong hearts, while pinching someone.
Yeah.
But you can see that he has let's call it like a simultaneous behavior and thought process, right? So it
Yep.
feels like progress.
It does. It does.
And then on Sunday, we had our third family meeting.
Yeah. That was very smooth.
Yeah, I think that everybody knew what to expect this week. It was our third time doing it. Everybody knew what to expect by the third time, which felt good. It felt a little bit different, kind of moving from that storming to that forming phase, if you will.
Yeah. It really did.
I personally really liked learning how to do something together. So this week we did learn how to make paper airplanes, and I still can't really make a paper airplane, but I'm improving. But this idea of like this tactile learning and not watching a video, Greg kind of led the way, was great. And, I think that I quickly dismissed your idea of Hunter teaching us about dinosaurs last week. But I think that upon further reflection, it seemed almost like you did teach us how to make paper airplanes this weekend because you're the only one that knew how to do it. And that was really nice. So sorry. And I'd like to consider that for next week. We tried this idea of someone teaching us how to do something.
Yeah.
Okay, so to recap, family meeting, we still love the Saturday pre-meeting. And we're learning what works as far as the Sunday meeting itself. But before the play, it was only about 25 minutes this week.
Yeah.
So that felt like the right amount of time.
Yeah, we're not talking about hours here.
And this was actually the longest play that we did at the end of our family meeting because it really was family play as well as family stories. Typically, our play has been like a game of bingo or a round of Pictionary.
Right. Yeah, so this week I brought out a big bag of photos that I had already scanned into an online album. And it's kind of meta because I'm like, actually, these photos would be perfect for the kids to learn about my family and to make a physical album. So I think I pulled a lot of these out of a physical album, and now I'm having the kids remix them into an album while teaching them about my parents and my grandparents, who none of them are alive, unfortunately. So the kids are learning that way. And we all had, I think, a beautiful time just sitting there going through photos and sticking them in albums and reading another album. What do you think?
I thought it was wonderful. So this definitely hits upon family stories. Did it feel like play to you as well? Because you had said that scrapbooking would be a great idea of play for you.
I mean, I could have done that for another hour or two, but did it feel like play? Yes.
Cool.
I didn't check my phone once. I wasn't thinking about anything else. So I think that would be my definition of play these days. Something that takes my mind off of everything else.
Cool. That's great. And then on family space. So we have the kids' individual areas. That has been fine. I asked them how they feel about it. They like having them, but there hasn't been much movement in the space so far. But the swap of the dining room table to now become our kitchen table has been awesome.
Yeah.
We have played Settlers of Catan, done about 7 different puzzles on that table. It's where we're having our family meeting, but it doesn't feel stuffy. And we had a couple meals there, which is awesome. We actually ate dinner together this Sunday.
We did.
Wow. Crazy. Before the family meeting.
Yeah. So what strong beliefs are you holding on to at home? The strong belief that we were holding on to is, yes, we eventually wanted a table in that room, but it couldn't be the table that was in the other room. Like that just wouldn't
that's
work.
the fancy black table.
That's the fancy black table. And for whatever reason, this is the furniture we bought the house with too. It was COVID times. Times were rough. Couldn't get any furniture. Now you can't get eggs. The furniture was staged that way, and we just kept it that way. I think we had walked into the house and we were like, oh, this is the way the house is supposed to be downstairs. And Danielle was like, I kind of want a table in the other room, but we should have a round kitchen table. And I agree. That should be the ultimate goal. But let's do the MVP. Let's do the easy thing. Press the easy button and just swap the furniture one room to the other. Game changer. Absolute game changer.
I agree. Family space, making it adaptable.
Yeah.
All right. So experiments are working out well so far.
They are. And I'm sure you heard at the beginning of the episode, but we have the most important thing tip sheet that Danielle here made for all of you to follow along and understand the most important thing about each episode as you're going in or as you're refreshing yourself on some of these experiments, you can get that from us if you email us hi@tmitpod.com or sign up for our newsletter on our website, tmitpod.com. We will send you the resource and look forward to learning more about you.
All right, great. Thanks everybody for listening. Love you, Goosey.
Love you, Goosey.